paramount to understanding the context, followed by our first set of well-developed points. Let me also make it clear, Airbnbs are not necessarily considered a tourism accommodation. Like a relay, my penultimate speaker will take the baton and continue the race, speaking on the safety that is compromised by the regulation of these bed and breakfasts. Finishing the race, my final speaker will tie up this debate and deliver the crushing blow to the crumbling foundation on which the opposition stands. According to the United Nations World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, tourism is defined as a social, cultural, and economic phenomenon, which entails the movement of people to places outside their usual environment for personal or professional purposes. They also define the tourism industry as a set of economic activities related to the movement of people for recreational or business purposes, typically involving the provision of goods to meet the demands of travelers. The industry plays a crucial role in the global economy, generating revenue, creating jobs, and fostering cultural exchange. Community-based tourism is defined by the United Nations Development Programme as a tourism management model that puts local communities at the center of the process. According to the official Airbnb website, this accommodation type was born in 2008 when two designers who had space to host 3 travelers looking for a place to stay. Now millions of hosts have joined the platform. A formal definition by Investopedia is as follows. Airbnb is an online marketplace that connects people who want to rent out their homes with people looking for accommodations in specific locales. The last critical definition is regulation. These are rules or orders issued by a government agency to control the way something is done. Another way to spin it is that regulations are about creating a formal
Point
space.
of information.
Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. We, the proposition, cannot even begin to express the frivolity of this notion. We are not about wasting time and resources, but enhancing visitor experience. Why are we trying to fix something that isn't broken? Airbnb is a self-regulated platform that has been certified by customer reviews with rules and regulations that must be adhered to by both host and guest. An example of this is the collection of identification and home security systems. Thus, creating new regulations is a waste of time, effort, and money. We are not interested in spending tourism dollars to develop a business that is perfectly fine. Instead, we suggest pouring these dollars into the development of the indirect aspects. These are the existing infrastructures like the roads, the improvement of utility services, and the training of staff. The Tourism Product Development, TBDCO, and the Jamaica Tourist Board, JTB, offer training for the industry. And what is our goal? Say it with me, getting more locals into the industry. The other side is accustomed to wasting money, but we're focused on directing the attention and funds to other pertinent issues. Additionally, what is the sense of regulating after the fact? To stifle the entrepreneurs, there is just no point. Now let me bring up a key characteristic that all tourism businesses must have: flexibility and a competitive advantage. With regulation comes restrictions. As the situation exists now, Airbnb hosts have the freedom to alter their service. They're able to adapt to new trends and patterns as they are not restricted by the limitations of the tourism sector. Let's consider the appeal of Airbnbs. Everyone wants to experience the excitement of traveling. However, not everyone has the budget to stay at one of Jamaica's acclaimed hotels. Trust me, we've all seen the prices at Sandals, and it's no joke. Airbnbs offer an appealing vacation experience at a much lower cost. With the imposition of regulations, the Airbnbs will become a part of the tourism industry, meaning a substantial percentage of revenue must go towards the government. Now, if I, a local Airbnb owner, loses such a large portion of my earnings, wouldn't I feel inclined to raise my prices? And if I did that, what makes you think that Connor, for example, would decide to come to my Airbnb when he could go to a hotel for the same price? Ladies and gentlemen, let us be smart. If Airbnb prices are raised, they'll lose their competitive advantage, effectively damaging both the industry and tourism sector. In promoting community-based tourism, we must touch on local participation. Why hurt the little man? When locals are participants, the success of these Airbnbs are guaranteed, as they are not merely spectators. With the imposition of these regulations, locals might feel pushed out and feel no need to continue their services. More involvement of Jamaicans in tourism deters negative sociocultural impacts. Data contained in the latest edition of the Visitor Satisfaction Survey, prepared by the Research and Market Intelligence Unit of the Jamaica Tourist Board, show that 31% of tourists complained of being hassled, and this percentage rarely fluctuates over the years. Engaging a local with deep cultural roots to provide an authentic experience contributes positively to the industry and ultimately benefits the tourism industry both economically and socioculturally. After laying all these solid points on the table, my opponents, how can you still sit before me with your delusions? Your claim that the regulations of Airbnbs are advantageous may have some validity, but the evidence that I have put forward outweigh the mere validity that your claims possess. I ask again, my respected opponents, can you really say that potential regulations cannot harm our flourishing industry? I conclude my statement. Thank you.
Panel of adjudicators, fellow debaters, and all members in the audience, I bid you well. My name is Tekwan Ellis, and I stand in proud opposition of the motion brought before the House today, that being, this House believes that regulating Airbnbs will be more disadvantageous to the tourism industry. Before I begin, I would like to rebut a few of the proposition's arguments. Firstly, they awfully miscontextualized what an Airbnb is. In the spirit of the motion, we are not talking about the website. We are talking about the physical place where people go and stay. Secondly, they argue that regulating Airbnbs rather, will make tourists want to stop going to hotels, but that's completely infactual. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. More tourists will come because there are more accommodations for them. And thirdly, lastly, they mentioned that regulations will stifle the growth in this industry, but I will prove to you why this will not happen. It's actually quite the opposite that will happen. Regulation in small industries, small and upcoming industries such as the Airbnb industry actually causes growth, and I will explain that later in my speech. But to clearly outline my team's case today, we believe that the advantages of regulating Airbnbs into a more formal system by far outweigh the disadvantages. As first speaker, I will postulate a few definitions, explain what these regulations will look like, define status quo, and contextualize the debate for my honorable adjudicators. I will then make evident how formalizing the system will make the Airbnb experience a safer, smoother, and more secure one. My second speaker will bolster our case with 2 points, and then my third speaker will come and he will quash any clashes between the House. To define a few key terms, to regulate, according to the Oxford Dictionary, means to control or maintain the speed of a process so that it operates properly. According to the Oxford Dictionary, disadvantageous means involving or creating unfavorable circumstances that reduce the chances of success or effectiveness, meaning that these regulations will necessarily have to create problems which reduce the chances of succeeding or being profitable to the country for the tourism industry. So what will these regulations look like? A safety analysis of every Airbnb should be done to ensure that necessary safety measures are in place, such as proper fire exits, lockable front doors, and grilled windows. It will also take into consideration the rate of crime where the Airbnb is located, and if needed, more security measures may need to be taken. For example, fences and other measures. Renters will also be fingerprinted and background checks will be conducted, just like how the Falmouth Parish Council formalized the Trelawney Parish Craft Market. A base tax of 5% of all earnings made from Airbnbs will be given to the government for the first 10 years of these regulations being put in place, and after that, a 10% tax will be induced. An environmentally friendly analysis of each Airbnb will also be done, and taxes will be applied accordingly. So taxes will be lower if you use more environmentally friendly methods and vice versa. The government will also have buses that run routes specifically for tourists at Airbnbs. This would work similarly to tour companies having tourists safely experience our country. An app or website will be implemented that will show how environmentally friendly and how safe the community that the Airbnb is located in is, along with the cost and other important details. Booking will be easier than ever. Moving on swiftly to status quo and context, in Jamaica, the tourism industry is booming, and with this boom, we've seen an increase in Airbnb rentals popping up around the island. As a matter of fact, there is at least one recorded Airbnb slash short-term rental in every single parish rather. Due to how quickly this sector is growing, the proper rules and regulations to ensure the safety of everyone involved is yet to be put in place. Formalizing the sector just like any other with rules and regulations will be largely advantageous to the tourism industry. For example, before formalization rather, craft markets were very slapdash. It would be largely confusing for tourists to even understand the system, but now there's order in this sector and things operate far smoother once the government stepped in, regulated and set up organized stalls, shops, and vendors. We are the ones that have the power to make the change and protect the people, and hence we should. Currently, the Airbnb system is very slapdash and has little to no rules or regulations in place to ensure safety and security for everyone involved. Since it is advancing at such a rapid rate, now is the opportune time to put these regulations in place before it reaches to the point where we can no longer control it. That is the premise of this debate. Proposition wants us to leave the people to their free will as the industry grows, but opposition knows that this can't work for many reasons. Let's get into them. Firstly, these regulations will make the system a smoother and safer one for the renter and the landlord. Our system makes the sector work smoother as persons will be able to book an Airbnb that they are most comfortable with at the push of a button. This will allow the renter to have even the slightest insight of who they are renting from and where they will be staying. Furthermore, these safety measures being implemented removes the risk of the industry aging badly like some Airbnb industries abroad. And to name a few, September 12th, this year, man killed, woman injured in Polk County Airbnb, according to baynews.com. WPLG, man killed at Fort Lauderdale Airbnb, May 1st, this year. When compared to Jamaica's crime rate, these states don't have bad crime rates, yet still they fall victim to violent murders. This is to show how frequent these killings are once the industry gets big. And that will happen in Jamaica unless these regulations are put in place. As a matter of fact, it has already started happening. The first murder in the country for the year was a British national who was staying in an Airbnb. He was shot in the pool of the Airbnb at that. If these measures were put in place, then it would not have been this easy to kill this foreign national. But with that opposition temporarily rests.
Good morning, all. Esteemed colleagues, I appreciate my opponent's perspective. However, allow me to utilize these ensuing moments to elucidate the intricacies of the subject matter. I would first like to rebut some of your points. We're not focused on explaining the informal structures of the Airbnbs, and it is already a self-regulatory service and not government-controlled. Licenses, as defined by the Cambridge Dictionary, represent official documents that give you permission to own, do, or use something. Licenses, such as the domestic tour company and accommodation licenses, are one of the many that TPDCO and JTB issues to various tourism businesses. In the context of distributing licenses to Airbnb operators, one must reckon with the potential ramifications. The issuance of licenses to Airbnb operators without discernment of their socioeconomic background introduces the prospect of diminishing the standard and quality of life within these communities. A pertinent concern arises in the form of crime, which is a factor intensified by the absence of comprehensive background checks on individuals availing themselves of Airbnb accommodations. This anonymity, coupled with the absence of thorough vetting processes, poses an elevated risk of criminal activities transpiring within these communities. As my first speaker stated, Airbnbs are not necessarily considered a part of the accommodation sector. Therefore, this potential surge in criminality becomes a formidable deterrent for prospective tourists contemplating lodging in Airbnb establishments, thereby impacting the broader tourism industry. To validate this argument, I refer to an article by Corey Robinson, a staff reporter for the Jamaica Gleaner, in 2019 titled Airbnb Nightmare, Residents Say Gated Communities Being Overrun by Industry, in the subheading, Concerned About Safety. Residents from gated community schemes such as New Harbour Village and Union Estate voiced deep-seated apprehensions regarding the influx of unfamiliar faces into their secure abodes. A resident of the New Harbour Village housing scheme astutely articulated this sentiment, stating, and I quote, "You buy a house in a gated community because you want that exclusivity, but we're not getting what we paid for if we have foreigners invading our space." The sentiments expressed by residents, such as those cited in the aforementioned article, highlight the need for vigilant oversight. As one resident aptly noted, it has to be monitored because if not, it is going to be loose and cause problems because criminals can use it as a haven. Such a portrayal runs contrary to the industry's core principles and consequently issuing license to Airbnb operators poses a significant threat to the safety of not only those directly involved, such as the tourists and locals, but also to those indirectly involved, such as foreign investors. So my opponents, you feel it is right to regulate and delegate, but not educate and elevate? Airbnbs fosters employment, thereby reducing the prevalence of crime. And as we would say here on the island, the devil finds work for idle hands, suggesting the more unoccupied an individual is, the more mischief they will cause. Moreover, employed individuals would be less prone to commit crimes as there would be less time to do so. Through the Airbnb app, the operator is able to employ potential individuals who would be competent for the assigned roles in the accommodation. So I say to you today, we need not to regulate, but rather educate and enhance the industry by getting our locals more involved in the tourism industry, which reduces or eliminates any tension that might be brewing. Rather than imposing strict regulations and limiting the growth of tourism, allow me to fill you with solid facts. According to the official Ministry of Tourism website, Senior Executive of PricewaterhouseCoopers, Mr. Bagaloo, he said, and I quote, "Growth must be felt by the people that participate in the industry on a daily basis. If not, the wider public will not participate in the industry in a productive and structured manner, which will cause dysfunctional behaviors such as tourist harassment at the points of entries, such as airports, seaports, and at the hotels themselves." With this statement being said, gentlemen, do you still stand on the point that regulations are advantageous to our industry? I mean, unless you are for crime and the exclusion of our locals, which would be quite disappointing to say the least. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed adjudicators, and fellow debaters, I stand on opposing side the proposition's ludicrous claim that the government regulation of Airbnbs on the island will be more disadvantageous to the tourism industry. I assert that, in fact, such regulations can bring about positive changes, not only for our economy, but also for the preservation of our pristine environment. One of the primary advantages of regulating Airbnbs is the stimulation of economic growth through increased tourism and investment. Take this into consideration. A research and findings article published by Jamaica's Life and Travel found that through Airbnb, local communities are now able to realize direct economic benefits from tourism. thereby giving them a greater appreciation for growth of Airbnb. Also, take this furthermore into consideration. According to data from Airbnb's registry, when looking specifically at the period of 2016 to 2017, the number of hosts in Jamaica saw a significant rise of 50%. During the same period, visitor usage experienced a notable surge with an incredible rise of 86%. Hosts collectively earned $9.4 million in 2017, reflecting a 62% increase compared to $5.8 million earned in 2016. Specifically, 910 hosts in Kingston earned a total of $2.4 million in 2017. Furthermore, when a survey was conducted from the same source, it concluded that the growing popularity of Airbnb in Jamaica can be attributed to the rising demand from travelers seeking to experience a local lifestyle. Side proposition keeps on mentioning things about hotels. Adjudicators, side propositions rather, keep on mentioning things about, oh, people will be taken away from established businesses such as hotels. Come on. Adjudicators, it is important for us to understand that tourism is not confined to hotels. It is confined to the overall industry, such as local people that sell goods and services to tourists. So this also includes local people such as Airbnbs. And for instance, hotels will never run out of people because there's a limited room for hotels, right? And these limited rooms, they can only hold so much, as in fact, limited. And these people want to go to Airbnbs to come to our country. So that doesn't make any sense. The growing popularity of Airbnb in Jamaica can be attributed to rising demands for travelers seeking to experience a local lifestyle. Additionally, investors are drawn to Airbnb in Jamaica due to the simplicity of business and model and a robust back-end support it offers. With government regulation, we will ensure the safety and security of these Airbnbs. Subsequently, when visitors feel confident in safety and security of their accommodations, they're more likely to choose Jamaica as their preferred destination. Think about it. If potential investors and tourists see that we are taking steps to ensure the safety and quality of accommodations, they are more likely to put their money into our economy. A regulated Airbnb market can attract more discerning travelers who are willing to spend more on a safe and enjoyable experience. This influx of revenue will not only benefit Airbnb hosts, but also extend to local businesses, creating a ripple effect of economic prosperity. This is especially important because whereas critics have it to say in status quo, the majority of profit from large chain hotels leave the country, not only bolstering the local economy, a renewed interest in local tourism through locally owned and operated Airbnbs. The majority of profits will go to actual Jamaicans. Moreover, regulated and subsequently profitable and safe Airbnbs are more likely to use local sources for high management labor, produce buildings and others. This newfound security will make the Airbnb sector far more attractive to tourists and also persons who want to invest in the Airbnb industry. Firstly, when states like Canada and the US see the effects of safety measures, such as tourist robberies and murders, they won't be as harsh with their travel adversaries. These travel adversaries serve as a deterrent to tourists who want to make Jamaica their destination for vacation. An online journal by Dr. Percy Neguare states that the travel advisories issued in 2016 against Africa had large impacts on tourism of the industry of the country. As the government, if we help to prove that these adversaries are no longer necessary, that then tourists will flock to the country in even large crowds than before. Moreover, when citizens themselves see how formalized this system is, they'll want to invest in the industry. They themselves will feel protected from more Airbnbs and improve the economy. For now, I rest my case.
My opponents, I can actually see where you're going, but it seems you might be on the wrong path. Redirect, recalibrate, and come over this side. This side has the facts, the evidence, and the reality.
We cannot sit here and even begin to consider that the regulation of Airbnbs is really what is necessary for the development of our country's tourism industry. All protocols observed, we the proposition remain inexorable in support of the Moot. The regulation of Airbnbs is indeed disadvantageous to our island's tourism industry. My first speaker distinctly spoke about the irrelevance of imposing regulations, price increases, and the value of local participation.
Point of information.
Moreover, my second speaker explicitly spoke about the consequences that arose with issuing licenses for Airbnbs and discussed how employment via Airbnbs deters the crime rate of our nation, which is an immense benefit to us all. Furthermore, are we really limiting the tourism industry to solely accommodation? Airbnbs allow the tourists to go beyond a hotel, engaging in a plethora of activities. Now look at this. Imagine how many nations have
Point of
sun,
information.
sand, and sea. In fact, according to the World Population Review, there are approximately 900,000 official islands worldwide. What makes Jamaica any different from the masses? This is where niche tourism comes into play. Jamaica's popularity in tourism not only stems from our warm climate and environment, but our historical significance, our rich culture, events tourism, and community-based tourism. Tourists want the authentic Jamaican experience, not a filtered impression of what Jamaican culture is. This is seen evidently through the crowd of tourists in Trenchtown in February, Bob Marley's birthday celebration, and popular events such as Reggae Some Fest. Where do you think those tourists are staying? Not hotels, Airbnbs, which is solidified in an official statistical report by the Jamaica Observer. Jamaica has a unique tourism product. Hence, the visitors are coming back for more, ensuring the proven success of our industry. We are more than just sun, sand, and sea. We need a different approach. As Edmund Bartlett, the Ministry of Tourism states, we are rethinking tourism. We are coming up with a new approach. Regulations only restrict and stifle the growth. And when have regulations ever been seen to work with the people? In a people-oriented industry, we need to consider the feelings of the people over all else. I rest my case.
Panel, audience, allow me to disillusion you. We'll start by analyzing the proposition's case. Something you might notice that at the end of every speech, they open this idea of advancing the tourism industry and talking about diversity and niche tourism. What are Airbnbs? But houses of people who live in Jamaica in local communities, local tourism. The minister said it himself, Airbnbs are part of tourism. And the proposition miscontextualizes in the belief, not taken right now, and in the belief that we can erase Airbnbs. Something you must understand here is that the harms of unregulated Airbnbs exist on their side because they cannot get rid of them. That is why we have won, because we have, one, proved that regulation and subsequent growth from safe Airbnbs actually advances the industry. And two, that the tourism industry is actually better as a result of Airbnbs. Opposingly, they have failed to prove their two burdens, which is that regulation and safety are going to harm the industry, and that two, the tourism industry will be fine either way, because it's not going to be. If we don't regulate them, rather, the tourism industry will fall into disrepute. I'll take the POI quickly.
How exactly are you're only focusing on regulations in terms of safety and security? What exactly, why aren't you considering policy and framework? And how
right, so thank you.
That's what
thank you for that POI. Policy and regulations. We talk about established hotels. Why are established hotels successful, and why is the tourism industry so expansive and diverse? Because of regulation and because of government help and prioritization. It's because of the excellent work of the Ministry of Tourism, the JTB, the Minister of Tourism himself, and their policies and advancements that are able to help the tourism industry. Right? If we're going to diversify and we're going to acknowledge tourism for what it it is, which is a diversified and dynamic industry, must involve Airbnbs. Something else we notice is that as the second speaker mentioned, regulation provides more environmental protection, right? So we notice that something that happens in the bigger, more established tourism industry is that environment is oftentimes disregarded, right? If we're able to nip these issues in the bud with the Airbnb industry, we have more environmental protection. And it's the same thing with all the other larger hotels and spaces for accommodation. When we're able to regulate them early and give them space to grow and diversify, we have a better tourism industry. And on the point of persons not coming to hotels anymore, that's simply not true. If we are a dynamic and diverse industry, then won't it be the case that when the hotels are filled, persons will go to Airbnbs, right? The proposition is underestimating the potential of tourism. And so if we all believe in tourism's ability to carry our country further, we must believe in the ability for Airbnbs to do the same. And the opposition rests.
Let's have another round of applause. I do not believe that they're going to rest. Champions against champions, Wolmer's girls, and Cornwall College. They will now prepare their rebuttals on the conversation about Airbnbs, a big factor in our tourism industry just now. Stick and stay, we'll be right back.
Watch the trend, pick up the trend. This are the trend for all the youths them. Watch the trend, pick up the trend. TREND. Big up the trend for education, teachers and the students. A fully bright future, yes, that are the new trend. Better governance, partner with the parents. Follow the big trend, elevate the youth them. Improve the schools, track performance, access and attendance. From infant, primary to university students. Turn up the skills training, full steam we are giving. Follow the big trend, elevate the schools. Yeah. Watch the trend, pick up the trend. This are the trend for all the youths them. Watch the trend, pick up the trend. TREND. For more technology, yes, and better planning, quality education, that's what should be trending. From principals to EOs, everybody winning. Follow the ministry, changing the system. Watch the trend, pick up the trend.
This is Trend, Transforming Education for National Development, a program designed by the Ministry of Education and Youth to transform Jamaica's education system for a brighter tomorrow.
The aim of the loan is basically, it has two primary objectives. One objective is to improve the health outcomes of the population, in particular those with chronic conditions, and second, to improve access and quality of care for patients with chronic conditions. So basically, the importance of investing in this type of projects is to improve not just the health of the population, it comes also with a return. The return, for example, in investing in the health of people with chronic conditions or preventing chronic conditions is able to improve the income of the country, in particular the gross domestic products. There is one study here in Jamaica in which it was demonstrated that by investing in health loans, it will improve the gross domestic products by 0.11% per year. So that represents a huge gain for the economy of the country and also for the economy of the families, because the person can continue healthy and be productive. So there are a couple of aspects that are important. One is we are promoting and supporting the government to implement health policies. These health policies are related mostly to prevent the consumption of tobacco, excessive alcohol drinking, but also to improve the healthy lifestyle. And then there is another component, which is investing in infrastructure. The other component is related to two aspects. One is the introduction of the digital health information system. And a second part of this component is related to introducing the chronic care model. The chronic care model is a model of care that serves to promote and provide access and high quality of care of patients with chronic conditions. So in this way, on one end, we are improving the infrastructure of the country. On the other, the capacity of the ministry to provide good quality of care, but at the same time, we're addressing the main health conditions of the country, the main health needs, which are chronic non-communicable diseases that are the main causes of ambulatory care, hospital care, disability, and premature mortality.
The need for this partnership, very important partnership, was necessary because over many, many years, the health profile of our population had changed significantly, where lifestyle-related diseases or non-communicable diseases have been claiming the lives of more Jamaicans. To date, up to 75% of deaths in the country in a given year. And the hospital infrastructure has not kept up pace with the need to treat with those conditions. And so in the wisdom of the government of Jamaica and the IDB team, there was a right basis for expansion of our healthcare infrastructure using IDB funds towards improving the health status of the population and by extension the economic prospects of the country. COVID has taught us many lessons, and one of the key lessons that we have learned is that the extent to which the population suffers from comorbidities or lifestyle-related diseases, whether it's cancers, hypertension, diabetes, or otherwise, and are then afflicted by an ailment like COVID, they are a lot more vulnerable. And indeed, over 80% of our deaths in Jamaica from COVID have been among a population that are of a particular age, over 60, but even more importantly, suffer from at least one comorbidity. And it demonstrates to us how vulnerable we are as a people, and this vulnerability transcends beyond just person and family and community. It also affects our economic prospects because it affects productivity and our capacity to get out and go to work each day and of course to enjoy a better quality of life. So the IDB window is a very important window to us, and we have so far aligned the loan funds with the strategic plan that we have for public health over the next 5 to 10 years. And that strategic plan seeks to expand infrastructure, and in this case the IDB supports the infrastructure expansion. We have 3 major hospitals that are now in design phase: Spanish Town, St. Anne's Bay and Maypen, and 10 health centers across those parishes that are either going to be built from scratch or significantly improved upon. That part of the program is progressing fairly well. The other element is to improve the technology platform so that we can improve on transaction time and cost to treat with patients. The information technology platform under the IDB fund will see us networking hospitals with health centers. We'll see the transmission of information in real time, from diagnostic through to assessment, through to treatment. And we are currently well advanced with that, with contract already awarded for the networking of the institutions and also for procuring the hardware, the computers and other machines in order for that connection to allow for information to flow from one place to the next. Beyond that, that platform will allow for telemedicine, remote monitoring of patients, all critical to this IDB window, which makes, again, this project so important. The other component of the program is for diagnostics. As a critical part of this IDB window, put into sharp focus the renewal of our diagnostic equipment, and the needs assessment has been completed. We know what we need to put where. We are enhancing the process through a maintenance schedule so that we don't lose these equipment early or before they have completed their useful life. And we will soon embark on the phase which will now secure or procure this equipment to enhance the capacity of the build-out of the buildings to provide better care. And then the final component, which is equally important, is the component around people and building capacity through training. As we expand hospital care, as we put in diagnostic equipment, as we network our institutions, we need the people to man. And the truth is, we have lost so many of our healthcare staff through migration, through international recruitment. They do have a good reputation. We need to train more, but we also need to retrain some that are in the system so they can adjust through change management to the new technologies, to the new way of doing things. So I really think that the IDB program has set the stage for a renewal, a real, true renewal of our healthcare systems. It has set the stage to provide better patient care, more efficient patient care, and I think Jamaica will be better for it once we are able to implement in a timely manner, which we are working on diligently as a critical part of the overall delivery of the program. I wanted to take the opportunity to thank those in Washington, those in Jamaica and elsewhere who have been a part of the development of this program. I feel proud to have been identified with it from the start to this point, and I do believe that it will place Jamaica in a position to advance not just socially but economically, because healthy population means a productive population, and that will ultimately impact the quality of life of individuals, of families, of communities, and by extension the country. Thank you very much, and we look forward to the continued efforts around building out what has been a well-conceived program, and a program that will have a game-changing impact on our population.
Give me two elastic. Girl, remember one time we used to run up and down, skip and play? Come, let me take you down to the past.
Welcome back. We are in our rebuttal section, and we'd just like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, the Tourism Enhancement Fund, the GHTA, Deja All Inclusive, Camco Hotel and Manufacturing, and Six Car Rental. We will begin with our proposing team, Cornwall College.
Panel and audience, I'm here to present to you today the reasons why Cornwall College, the opposing team, has won. So we started with a few classes we heard at the debate today. So the question is asked, or where are persons safer? The proposition tells us that Airbnbs in the status quo are running rife and there's a lot of potential for violence. And we see that as well. Crime and violence exist in Airbnbs when they're unregulated. And something we need to point out is that Airbnbs exist whether or not proposition likes it. It's just that they're choosing not to regulate them, which makes persons less safe. So we win that clash. Another clash is, where is there more engagement with locals and local profit, right? So in the propositions world where there's no regulation and no growth for Airbnbs, right, and there's potential for crime, persons don't go to them. They don't have profit, they don't grow, they don't get involved in the tourism industry. However, on our side, where there is regulation and growth, there are more persons within the local economy getting that money because local persons own and operate Airbnbs, as is contextualized in my first and second speeches. So we win that clash as well. In the clash of where tourism has the greatest potential for growth, it is obviously in Airbnbs because we have the potential to diversify and include Airbnbs as a part of the tourism product. Proposition fears the safety of individuals, but we have solved it with regulation. And they also were about the threat to establish tourism, because this is unfounded. First of all, it's unfounded because they don't give any data or any backing for the idea that tourism or Airbnbs will threaten traditional tourism. It's just not true because it is a part of the tourism product. Tourism is dynamic and diverse, and it includes a lot of things, including the sales of goods and services, and of course accommodations. And by way of Airbnbs being a place where tourists can come and have themselves accommodated, it is a form of tourism, right? So then we ask ourselves the question, who better answers the motion? This House believes that regulating Airbnbs will be more disadvantageous to the tourism industry. The answer is opposition, because we prove that regulation not only helps Airbnbs and keeps persons safe, but also helps to develop the tourism industry. Opposing the proposition has proved that, or they haven't really proved at all, that regulation has inherent negatives, and similarly, they have not proved that the tourism industry will be inherently negatively affected by Airbnbs and their regulation. For these reasons, we have won, and the side opposition rests.
Clash is won. I'm yet to see the validity of your arguments. Firstly, nip it in the bud. It is no longer a bud, it is a full-grown tree. The Airbnb industry has already been existent for years. What exactly are you nipping in the bud? I see that you fail to recognize that this notion, this Moot, we are talking about the official organization, not some informal structures that you are referring to. Now, you mentioned a lot about safety and security measures. Seems to be your only point. How does regulation stop crime? Have you seen the state of crime in Jamaica? These zones of special operations, how are these deterring crime? And how can these regulations that you seem to want to put in place deter the crime rate in Jamaica? The crime rate in Jamaica can only seem to be solved. The solution is simply the people. All stakeholders need to be involved in the resolutions of this issue. Thirdly, home security and smart homes. How exactly is the government going to regulate and monitor a self-regulatory service that's already been regulated? Now, regulations are already in place, and guess what? Crime's still happening. Why wouldn't we mention a popular type of accommodation? You mentioned it in your third speaker. You mentioned it. How exactly, when we are doing a comparison, it is notable that we would mention an already existing accommodation when doing a comparison. Now, the second speaker mentioned something about transport and buses by the government. Now, I know, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there are set packages where you can register on the Airbnb platform to set up available transportation. So I don't see why we would want to fix something that's already fixed. All right, another thing. In this people-oriented industry, You need to consider the people. We need to focus on the people, not just policy and infrastructure. Because when there's policy and infrastructure and nobody's following it, if there is negative tension between the people and the government, how exactly is the problem solved? I'm yet to see. Moreover, the setup and the already existing structure of the Airbnb platform dismantles your entire argument. I rest my case.
Give yourself a fighting chance. Wear an approved helmet. A message from the Road Safety Unit in the Ministry of Transport and Mining.
Are you an entrepreneur producing an excellent Jamaican product or service? Did you know you can earn hard currency and more significant returns by exporting? Contact the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce to help propel your business along the export lane.
Everything you can produce, the Jamaicans overseas want it. We're not going to get rich by just bringing down the debt. We're going to get rich by exporting a lot more. So grow exports, create job opportunities, drive economic growth through exports to make Jamaica a richer and much more prosperous country.
The judges have deliberated, and it was such a difficult task. We want to thank Omari Wilson, Nicole Kalesa, and Amelia Ferron, our adjudicators this afternoon. We will now invite Ms. Kalesa to present the numbers.
All right, this was a spirited debate between Wolmer's girls, reigning champion, and Cornwall College. The motion today was this House believes that regulating Airbnbs on the island would be more disadvantageous to the tourism industry. And we see where team proposition actually put forth compelling arguments. They stated that why fix something that is not broken? They presented arguments that Airbnb is already self-regulating, and they even gave examples that Airbnb operators will have to receive training from JTB and that they will be licensed as well. However, we see where team opposition proposed that not having regulation would create a world of chaos. They even gave examples stating regulations on safety, tax, and even websites that would create a better framework for Airbnb to be better structured on the island. All right, and we will also like to recommend our best speaker as Matthew White from Cornwall College. And our commendable speaker, we have Michaela Taylor from Wolmer's Girls. Congratulations. Now, when we look at point standing, we see where there is a point difference of 237. Right. So we have one team scoring a points of 855 and the other points totaling 1,092. We have Wolmer's Girls with 855 and Cornwall College with 1,092. Congratulations. All right. Job well done to both teams. You guys really debated the motion well today. And we just want to give an overall congratulations one more time. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. We have done a good job indeed. Stay tuned for match 3, where we will have Mannings High and Kingston College. We want to thank PBCJ, our timekeepers, adjudicators, and producers. I'm your host, Michelle Tuller. Thank you.
The national tourism debates are on, and PBCJ is the place to watch them. See students from schools all across the island match wits and tackle complex issues affecting our nation. Watch as future leaders and thinkers solve problems with innovative arguments. Tune in on Mondays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. with a repeat on Saturdays from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. Watch the national tourism debates on PBCJ, the People's Station.
What can a little germs do?
Pink eye running belly, even flu. Germs can make them happen to you.